we're going to be going live with Nancy Stark, who is a nurse practitioner, functional medicine practitioner, all educated on metabolic health, root cause healing, especially for females that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even beyond that. She has her own practice that she does somewhere out in the West Coast because it is, she had mentioned it's Pacific Standard Time. But I'm going to wait for her to load on to here real quick. I'll give her a text. But we're going to be going over everything about Western conventional medicine, why your labs can be considered normal, but you don't feel normal, weight gain, fatigue, kind of all those symptoms that you've been experiencing, and that it's not really age, and it's not just you in your head, I should say. But I'll see here, get into it. All right, perfect. Wait for her load on here. There we go. Good deal. Should be loading on. Hey, Nancy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Actually, I'm just gonna take these out.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Where are you from, by the way?
I am from California. I live in Pasadena, outside of Los Angeles.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I got a lot of clients out there, and I'm sure a lot of followers are actually from out there. But first and foremost, Nancy, I know we met on Facebook, but can you kind of explain a little bit about what you're basically, I guess, what you do and how you help women? And I know you said you're at a clinic too, and then now you're kind of doing online stuff, which is incredible. So just like kind of go into that a little bit and just speak on that.
Okay, awesome. Well, first I want to thank you for for putting together this collaboration.
Of
I'm super
course.
excited to talk about functional medicine and metabolic health. So yes, I am a nurse practitioner. I have been in nursing for over 15 years. I got into nursing because I wanted to help people feel well. I wanted to be a part of, of wellness. And I quickly realized, as you and most people who are watching this know, that conventional medicine is not really a place for wellness, right? It's more, a lot of people call it sick care because we are really good at finding what is wrong, finding out what is wrong with people, doing diagnostic workup, and giving people a diagnosis and then giving them a treatment plan, a medication, a surgery, but often people still don't even feel well after that, unfortunately. And a lot of people come into the conventional medicine space because they don't feel well. And when we can't find something wrong with them, we tell them there's nothing wrong. Maybe it's in your mind, there's nothing wrong. And so people leave feeling very deflated and they're not well. And so this just really hasn't sat well with me for many years, working as an NP, really not giving the time or space to give people preventative care, lifestyle tools to feel well. And so I've kind of branched out. I still work as a nurse practitioner. I think, it's an important place. I have education.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And I try my best in those 10, 15-minute visits, right, to really squeeze in all the education I can and really empower people, because I feel like we have everything inside of us that we really need to thrive and to heal. And so I want people to feel empowered, not victimized, but empowered, that even certain things maybe they've done over time that have gotten them to this place, but that means that you can kind of reverse those diagnoses. So anyhow, that's why I started doing health coaching also, in addition to working as a nurse practitioner, just because it gives me more time and space to really give people the tools. And I love it. I mean, Friday nights, I'm like watching, metabolic, reading books about, metabolic health. I mean, this is just my passion. I just want everyone to feel empowered and know that they can be well. I feel better now in my 40s than I did in my 20s. And so I want to spread the word. It's my passion.
That's incredible. And yeah, we can definitely get into some of the strategies you specifically like to do to take care of yourself and your health, especially, having your own business now and then obviously doing the clinic work that you still do. It definitely is a lot, but I'm sure you have some strategies on how to mitigate kind of through that for your day-to-day life and for your family as well. But with that also being said, like I want to talk about obviously the big flaw that we have and we see kind of in
in Western conventional medicine. And I really like that you also had mentioned like it definitely there is a time and a place, and I always want to reiterate that because I think a lot of people think that we need to be bashing doctors and so forth, but they're absolutely needed 100%. They're absolutely needed, especially for acute care. Like I mean, I always joke around with my clients like, hey, if you have a gunshot wound, you don't come to me. Like you don't come to me. It's typically when you're dealing with some type of chronic health condition, like bad symptoms of fatigue, waking, insomnia, all those. But I want to talk about kind of the failures of symptom suppressing conventional care. So, really, just talking about like, okay, if this individual has high blood pressure or high blood sugar, which you're an expert in, high A1C, we get that test back. It's a 5.6, a 6.0, a 7. I mean, even unfortunately, at times, or someone's thyroid's off, their TSH is elevated, they're hypothyroid. What do you feel like is kind of the big flaw with just like straight up jumping to like a statin drug or like thyroid medication or like metformin. As we know, those could be very helpful tools, but like what could be, I guess, like why do you think people take those things, but yet they still deal with the same symptoms?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think because people don't have the tools, they don't know any different, right? They're told you have this diagnosis. When we're talking about diabetes, this thing that you have, I always tell people you don't catch diabetes, right?
Yeah, of course. No worries.
Technical word. So yeah, right. You don't catch type 2 diabetes. This is a lifestyle issue, right? I mean, we develop
100%.
it over time. And so, I'm going to fix this real
Yeah, yeah.
quick so that I can.
No problem.
Totally lost my setup here. Let's just go here. Okay. Accountability. Okay. Can you hear and see me okay now?
We're good. We're good.
Okay. So yeah, I think just because people don't have the right tools, so they think that they need to take a medication to fix this disorder or this disease that they've been given. I saw a patient yesterday in the clinical setting, A1C 12 point something, sky
Yep.
high, and I was giving the education, the tools, things that I do in my coaching practice, and she's like, I've never heard of any of this. No
Wow.
one has ever told me any of these things. And let alone the fact that you can reverse this. Like, you do not need to be on insulin forever. You can make changes and heal yourself from this, right? Again, like, you didn't catch this. This is a lifestyle thing. So I think we've just been kind of conditioned for years and years that you go to the doctor and they give you a treatment plan. They give you a protocol, and that's just, and we accept it. And it sort of takes the responsibility away from us. What can I do? I got this illness, but at least if I take the medication, then it's going to go away. But I mean, again, we're not really like targeting root cause, right? That's what functional medicine does, right? We're looking at root cause.
100%.
Right? And and statins are kind of an interesting thing, because statins, we now know, studies show that statins actually increase metabolic dysfunction. They increase your risk for developing diabetes and blood sugar disorders. And it's like, when you really think about why the person has elevated cholesterol, it's because of the metabolic dysfunction to begin with, and then we give them a
100%.
medication that actually makes that disorder even worse. So yes, it makes the
wholeheartedly.
labs, right, it makes the labs look a little bit better, not 100%, right? I mean, the labs still,
person, not the labs.
yeah, fixes the labs, looks good on paper, but the person still doesn't feel well. Now they got a ton of side effects from the statin, and are we really fixing the root cause problem? I mean, people go into the hospital, with heart attacks with normal LDL, and 50% of people are still having heart attacks. So I mean,
critical.
Is it really, really helping us? I don't know. It's helping the report look better.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's so true. I mean, obviously, cardiovascular disease, number one killer in the United States, big issue. But I think it's very faulty when it comes to the Western medicine. I mean, the role cholesterol plays is not just to prevention of trying to not get a heart attack. I mean, cholesterol helps with your hormones, your brain. I mean, 80% of your cholesterol is your brain.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different topic for another time. But I do want to talk about that. It is so true that people will be so shocked by these lifestyle strategies that someone will implement rather than just a medication. Because I believe that, I think as time goes on now, I think people are getting a little bit better with that, understanding more root cause medicine and so forth.
Yeah.
But I think also what happens is that for the longest time, we were trusted to listen to the doctor, to take the medication, because that was what was told we should do. I am sick. When you were younger, your parents were like, hey, we got to go see a doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor will then give you medicine. The medicine is supposed to help you feel better. But at the end of the day, it may help you feel better, but it does not fix why you have an issue in the first place.
Yeah.
So I want to see something. I don't know if you hear this a lot. I know you probably work with it a lot in your practice, but when someone comes to you and they say that their labs are normal, on paper everything looks perfect, but inside they're dying. They're like, in terms of just extreme fatigue, they can't function throughout the day. They can't keep up with their kids. They can't really just lose weight, if anything. What do you see in terms of that and kind of what you do?
Yeah. I mean, because the labs are really looking at disease states, right? Like when something is so bad that you now have a disease state. When, things start to shift a lot earlier than that, but our conventional labs don't look for those subtle changes, but our body speaks to us. So we have symptoms, right? And those are messages from the body that something's not right. Brain fog, fatigue, bloating, all sort, irritability. I mean, so many things that, migraine headaches, all of these symptoms are, in my opinion, the metabolic system is not well, right? Our cells are not generating good energy anymore. We don't have really high quality mitochondria in the cells. So we don't feel well. It may manifest in different areas depending on the person. But this is the issue. And when you go get your labs checked, because it's not severe enough yet, and sometimes you're told that it's normal, right? Like I sat, I was dancing around pre-diabetes for over 20 years, sitting at anywhere from 5.7 to 5.9. No one ever told me that that was not okay. I thought because I ate well and I exercised, I was an athlete, that I was very healthy. Nobody said anything that was a problem. So even labs that we know are not optimized, we're still, because it's not severe enough, the doctor doesn't say anything. And I just think that functional medicine labs are a little bit more broad, so they're not such a tight.
I think sorry to cut you off real quick, but I think a big thing is to talk about is that Western conventional medicine is reactive, not preventative. And so with that being said, like when you look at a lab value in the clinical setting, if it's not severely elevated to where you have a condition or a disease, that means that you're fine. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
And what we would want to do as more of a functional provider and helping you not only obviously reverse chronic symptoms that you have, but actually helping you feel your best, your most optimal, is looking at that lab value and being like, hey, it looks like you're pushing towards, for example, a high A1C. Just because my A1C is not, a 7 or even a 5, it could be a 4.5. And that's still something to be concerned about, not to scare anyone, but that's still something that should be a red flag, that something's going wrong. And the way that you're going is hurting you, or I shouldn't say hurting you, but it's causing problems and symptoms and obviously many internal physiological damages. So with that being said too, I love that we talk about, I know this is kind of referencing back, I love talking about my clients about environmental adaptation. It is not you that we have to fix and coach. It is the environment that you're in, because the environment that you lived and the environment you're in right now has led you to that adaptive state. I have a high A1C. I have thyroid dysfunction. I have IBS. What in my environment has been causing that? Is it emotional stress in my work and in my relationships? Is it the nutrient deficiencies because my diet is part of the SAD diet? It's full of ultra processed refined carbohydrates that are spiking blood sugar. Is do I have unaddressed trauma? And I see that a lot in my coaching too. But anyway, we have to get out of the environment that made us sick, because you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick.
Right.
But I know that's going into some of the next things we're talking about, and that's kind of just really the metabolic crisis that we have today. I mean, I look at the statistic, and I actually saw the statistic back in 2023, and this is still on track. So this is 2 years ago, but the statistic said that in 2030, 7 out of 10 Americans will have some form of lifestyle disease, meaning that it was their lifestyle that caused them to have that problem. 7 out of 10 Americans, that's 70% of the US population. That means more than every one of two people. That means that it could be two people out of everybody, two people. There's a chance that both of them will have some type of metabolic issue. But it's so prevalent though. You go out into public, what do you see? Who's out there? Like, what do you see? So I guess like, you know, what do you think are the main things that are causing today's environment, or I should say today's metabolic crisis? Like, why do you think there's an ever rising rise in people with diabetes, cardiovascular risk, thyroid dysfunction, ADHD, OCD, depression, uh, anxiety? Like, why do you think that is today?
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. There's many reasons. It's a, it's coming in from multiple different factors. One is you mentioned the ultra processed foods. I mean, a huge percentage of the majority of people out there are eating ultra processed foods and don't even realize it, right? We're eating health foods, right? It says some
Oh
type
yeah,
of health food, protein bars and granola, whatever. And they're loaded with, a bunch of ingredients we can't pronounce. Who knows? Our bodies don't know how to process these things. And so I think the diet, the ultra processed foods is a main contributor. We're not eating real whole foods anymore. Causes so much microbiome dysfunction. So we're not digesting foods well. We're not absorbing the micronutrients the way that we should.
yeah.
The toxic
Okay.
exposure. I mean, just every year, more and more chemicals are coming into, our exposure into our area. So, everything that we're exposed to, within the foods, the things that are sprayed onto the foods, the plastics, right? I mean, we're finding microplastics throughout the body now. It's inevitable. I mean, you can't stay away from it. So, toxic exposure, the foods that we're eating, people don't sleep. They don't think sleep is important, right?
Circadian health.
So we're not getting that. Human beings are meant to be outside and moving their body. We're inside all day long. Not moving our body. I mean, anything under 5,000, if you're taking less than 5,000 steps a day, you're considered sedentary. I would say the majority of people out there are not getting 5,000 steps in a day, and that's considered
100%.
sedentary, which is a disease state at this point, right? I mean, we're understanding that's like, equal to smoking.
Oh yeah.
So it's really, really bad. So we're not moving our bodies. Our muscle is deteriorating because we're not using it, right? And muscle is so important for metabolic health. And then the stress, like you said, stress really does impact. And you go to the doctor and you ask, and they'll tell you all the time, stress doesn't cause these things. And I beg to differ on that. The more stress you have, the more inflammation your body is going to
Yeah.
have.
I mean, that's foolish though. That some of the things obviously we're with conventional conventional westernized medicine, but that's a foolish thing to say that stress has no physiological impact on your health and well-being. That is so wrong on many occasions, and there's many studies that show that. Now, I know we can have our own podcast about how actually faulty the studies are due to funding, but I mean, I'm not trying to get into that at the moment, but I think it is prevalent to say that it everything in our environment day to day has dramatically decreased the quality of our lives.
Yeah.
And that we have people that are in laboratories hijacking food so you get addicted to it.
Yes.
So we have people that purposely know what they're doing and they continue to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Now, another big thing I want to talk about is the stress, but we're not just talking about, let's say, like work stress, emotional stress, like that is huge. Work, relationships, wearing all the hats, whatever. Always being perfectionist, always saying yes, never saying no. Those are all root causes too. But I want to talk about another form of stress, and that's the physical stress that we put onto ourselves. Now you mentioned it with the circadian health, not getting enough sleep, but I want to talk about physical stress that many people do not even know. The years of yo-yo dieting, the years of fad dieting, you always going to a diet, you doing 5 a.m. hit cardio all the time, drinking caffeine on an empty stomach. These are the true stress loads that you're adding to yourself,
Right.
that's causing your symptoms. And then we talk about previous stressors like emotional childhood trauma, or you were in a marriage relationship. I see that a lot. And that's bad. That's bad. And I'm not here to do psychological work, and no, that's not my expertise, but it is prevalent in what you're dealing with today. Now, I think a big thing too is I think we should talk about, I know you're just getting to the world of social media, but I think social media will cause a huge toll on people's mental and emotional well-being. But everything, though, I like to talk about works in unison. not in isolation. So us as functional medicine practitioners, we do not just look at the body as one system, one organ, or one hormone. We don't just look at your gut as it just being one digestive organ. We look at your gut as it influences your immune system, your skin health, thyroid health, like the conversion, your heart health, and so many other systems inside your body. So what we're trying to get at here is that I loved how you talked about the processed food disrupting our guts, causing the bloating, the constipation. But as we obviously know nowadays, is that a lot of the brain chemicals, technically neurotransmitters that help with mood regulation, are obviously in your gut.
Yeah.
So eating this processed food causes you bloating, constipation, plus mental and emotional issues as well. And so it's like this big thing that it seems like it's super complex, but it's not. It's very fundamental at the core.
Hmm.
But I do want to talk about something that you're an extreme expert in, and that's pretty much that muscle centric type of medicine you like to talk about with balancing out your blood sugar. And I kind of just want to talk about with you kind of the role that muscle plays in your health. Because we talk about a lot of the hormones, we talk about gut, but something that should be very, very reiterated, especially for females that struggle with these symptoms of trying to lose weight, have energy, have proper mobility, and have drive for their life. Body composition and muscle is so critical. So I want you to talk more about that and kind of what you like to say for your people, even in a clinical setting, and then also in your coaching practice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're so 100% correct on that. The muscle is so important, and I don't see, especially women, over 40, doing it enough, right? Really focusing on muscle and building it. And we've heard for years like that protects our bones, and we lose muscle dramatically, every decade, after our 30s. And so it's really important that you work very hard to maintain what you have and grow more muscle. We're never going, people are afraid of being bulky and, it's not going to happen, right? But it's going to improve our health dramatically. Your muscle, it's like a sponge for glucose. So, and the majority of people are eating far too many refined carbohydrates. And so the more muscle you have on your body, the more you're going to process that glucose. It's going to come out of the bloodstream where it's toxic, to our bodies. And so it's really important to have adequate muscle to regulate your glucose levels, your blood sugar. It will keep your blood sugar nice and steady throughout the day. So, people aren't having big spikes and big crashes. So the more muscle you have on your body, the more you're going to regulate your blood glucose throughout the day. That was a huge thing for me. Like I said, I didn't have diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I was sitting close to pre-diabetes for years. But when I put a glucometer on a while back, I was spiking my blood sugar into the 220s, 250
Wow.
on a daily basis. And this is without a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. So I had absolutely no clue that I was going into what we would consider a diabetic range every single day. And following that big spike, you come crashing down. And that's why people feel that hangry term, right? Where you feel like you must eat. And I would always say, I have low blood sugar. I'm this person that has hypoglycemia. I feel shaky and my heart's beating fast and I don't feel well. I just feel like a pit in my stomach. I need to eat. So it was one of those snack, people. I always have to carry a snack because if I don't, I'm going to feel terrible. And, I just didn't realize that I was having these blood sugar issues, right? As somebody who exercises, eats well. At the time, I was actually vegan. So I was very conscious of my diet. I'd been vegetarian for 30 years. So that's a whole nother story, right? In terms of, getting your
Yeah,
macronutrients and
of
whatnot. But
course.
yeah. And once I started doing functional medicine testing, I saw that, I was lacking in a few areas, quite a bit, even though I was
Yeah.
very, focused on my nutrition. So, as I started making those shifts in my diet, really doing protein forward, because the more protein you consume, the easier you're going to have muscle synthesis when you have adequate amounts of protein, which I wasn't
100%.
getting in that diet prior. Once I started eating the adequate amounts of protein, and then hitting the gym and lifting heavy weight, like really, progressive. You do it in a safe manner, but you're lifting weight. You're not, you're not just stretching. You're and walking. You're also building muscle. My glucose levels just evened out. I mean, now it's just like when I put a glucometer on now, it's a nice steady stream throughout the day. You may have a couple times where you're up and down because of whatever stress, poor sleep that night, or, or you eat something that
Yeah.
is going to do it. But I mean, for the most part, it's nice and steady. And now I'm not a snack person anymore. I mean, I can go for some reason, if I haven't had a meal and it's been like 7 hours, I feel fine. And it is unbelievable to me that I could do that I can be so balanced in my blood sugar. And I know muscle is a huge part of that. I have put on significant muscle in the last year, because I've been very focused on that. After I had my child, who is now 7, the
Mhm.
muscle just, and because like I said, I was an athlete, I was a gymnast, so I used to have a lot of muscle, and I just took that for granted as something that would just be there forever. And guess what? It doesn't. It all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're like, wow, where is my muscle? It just comes off. And especially after pregnancy,
Mhm.
that really took a toll on my muscle. And so once, so anyhow, I think having adequate muscle back on my body has really helped level out my blood sugars. I think it's a key part of it,
Yeah,
so it's really, really
yeah,
important.
it's so huge and so critical because I mean muscle is like almost a sponge for
It
glucose.
is, yeah.
Like it helps regulate the actual uptake of the carbohydrates you take in that turns into sugars in your body and then gives you that healthy insulin response that you want
Right.
for obviously many biological functions that happen inside your body. But
Yeah.
wow, that's it. I that's actually outrageously wild. I didn't even know that. I'm so happy you found that out for yourself, though. That I mean, 200 on us. I mean, you probably felt awful at that point, like
Yeah.
just crazy mood swings, just
Yeah.
irritability.
And you
But yeah, that's so
and you don't
important.
even know. You don't
Yeah,
know. That's my
you
norm,
think
right?
it's normal almost because it happens so much. Yeah, I know you have people that maybe you coach and they come to you and they're like, they're probably like a week in, maybe a few weeks in, and they're like, wow, I didn't even know I could feel like this. Like they're just
Yeah.
like, they have no idea how well they could feel because what they were feeling before was happening for, chronically. So they have no idea how well they could feel.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah. I feel more capable of life. I tell people that, like, just your resiliency increases. I tell my clients all the time, you don't know because you haven't been there yet. So you feel like that's never going to happen, right? Like, I could never cut out ultra processed foods. I can't do it. It's like, yes, you can. Once you start making these shifts and you really are protein forward, you're exercising, you're putting on the muscle, you're balancing your blood sugars, which is automatically going to balance hormones. You feel so capable, and the cravings go away, and you feel so much more energetic. You wake up feeling good, not like I'm
mhm.
struggling until I get my coffee. And no, that all goes away. And so once you get there, and you have to kind of coach people through that, because you don't feel that right away. It takes some time, but really not that long, right? If
Yeah,
you're consistent, all of
a
a sudden
hundred
you're
percent.
you're feeling pretty good. And so you just kind of gotta be consistent and push through that early part.
Yeah, yeah, love that. I love that so much. And I actually want to talk about another that kind of goes into the next topic here too, because I think today women have put themselves into the state where they're actually under eating. And so like it might be a little controversial sometimes, but I want to talk about this. So I think majority of times, at least the women that come to me, there's several types of people, that are going to um look at losing weight. Either the person wants to make the actual changes necessary to create lasting results for losing weight, or it's the individual that rather just, go with the Western conventional medicine route and kind of just use whatever to help with kind of weight reduction. And either way is fine, doesn't really matter. But I do want to talk about the woman that does want to make those lifestyle changes to lose weight. With that said, I think a majority of women, the true reason why they don't feel well, they're inflamed, they're exhausted, is because they're actually under fueling themselves. They're not sleeping enough. They're like a type A woman.
Mhm.
Believe I see a lot. And so this is very common with the work I do. They're not people that are lazy majority of the time. They're people that are on go, go, go. They're either working in their career and they're trying to grow it, or their career is very demanding. They have 3 children. They have a husband that's always working as well. All incredible things. But the physiological damage that it causes you is a real issue to why I see so many people. So this is going to wrap back to muscle though. The more that your body is stressing now, the more that you're under eating, the less that your resistance training, adding progressive overload week over week or with weight, the less healthy your body composition is going to be. The less healthy the insulin response is going to be inside your body when you have any type of food, not even just carbohydrates. I mean, insulin, neoglucogenesis could happen, or whatever. So what happens then is that now we have an under muscled, overstressed, hormonal imbalanced female And when they go to the doctor, they might look fine on the surface, but inside they're damaged. They're hurt. They don't feel well. They can't function. And this is the tie back to what you were just saying, is that when you focus with your clients actually getting enough nutrition in their diet, they don't need to rely on the caffeine or the coffee, because their body and their cells are actually getting nourished on a cellular level with the micronutrients and even macronutrients they need to function. And when you add in proper resistance training, like obviously you do really well, then it's like it's a combination that's not just better for your health or better for your body, like your physique, the way you look, but it's medicinal. Like it heals you. And so this is wrapping up to what you're saying, is that it all you we have the capacity to heal ourselves. And Western conventional medicine does not help with that. They tell you to rely on pharmaceutical drugs, but at the end of the day, you have the power to heal yourself. And the things that Nancy's doing, things that I'm doing, it all is the empowerment to facilitate the change needed for you to actually make and heal yourself. And so I want to talk about how you talk about, you always want to start with lifestyle first. So what does that kind of mean for you?
Well, when I first started doing coaching and I was utilizing functional labs and looking at gut microbiome and coming up with protocols, what I found was that many of my clients couldn't do the protocols. They couldn't take supplements. Their gut was so destroyed and they felt so terrible that they couldn't do these very like tailored, focused protocols. And I had to kind of dial it back and really do a general lifestyle approach, right? And clean up the sleep and the diet and the stress and really work on those. And then we could start really tailoring, looking at, their metabolomics testing or oat testing, or, going through those and then really starting to use supplements and tailoring the whole protocol. They could handle it then, but we needed to start with the foundation, with the basics before I could really, so they needed that general foundational healing, and that came from lifestyle. And who doesn't want to feel amazing? I mean, yes, it's work, but it's work to be sick too, right? It's work to have to line up all your medications in the pill box. It's expensive, and often you don't even feel well when you're doing that,
100%.
right? So I think it's worth it, and my clients who really, stick with the things that that I work on with them. In the end, they're like, this is life changing. This is so transformed. I just wish that they could tell everybody about it because they didn't know. I mean, I had someone that I've been working with for 6 months, and she said to me, she's been trying to manage IBS for over 30 years, has been to so many doctors, and nothing has changed it. In 6 months of working together and working on foundational lifestyle factors, those IBS symptoms are gone. And not only that, all the other medications are coming off for all the other chronic things that were going on that initially she didn't really even care about, right? She was just taking the medicine for those things, and that was kind of the rest of her life was going to happen. But now, because we really healed her, her metabolism and her cells, and, they can produce good energy, she doesn't have a need for any of those other medications because all of those other things are going away as well. And
that. That's so amazing. That so fires me up.
Me too.
That's great.
I just love that. Yeah. So that's what I'm here for, is just to empower people that you don't need the Band-Aid approach. Sure, some of those medications can help us temporarily while we're learning how to do lifestyle. Like lower the blood pressure. We don't want people to be at, 180, over 100. We don't want people to be there and at risk for stroke. So sure, we're going to bring it down, but then we're going to teach people why they have high blood pressure. And then eventually we can come off of that. We don't have to live on these medications forever. So yeah, that's my take.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, my audience absolutely loves functional testing for whatever reason, but I want to talk about the real reason. Is that when you get a test, you get a functional test. It for sure will give us data, but the real data you need is the internal and external accountability to make the lifestyle changes you need to actually change your life. And so that actually brings it to one of the most critical things that I remember reading from your text yesterday is you talked about reframing mindset. And I think that's probably one of the most profound things that I've ever heard from a practitioner, because everybody seems to forget that at the end of the day, the letters behind your name, what you give as a protocol, does not mean anything if the client cannot adhere and actually follow your plan. So that one thing is one of the most life-changing things that you could do for someone. Because if the individual cannot actually make the internal changes in themselves, install the beliefs that I can do it, install the beliefs that this is not me anymore. Because remember, it's generational health curses I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Because it's not genetics, it's in the family. At times it is for sure, but habits run in the family, and habits aren't
Yes.
taught, they're caught. So with that being said, when you have a family members not eating well, not taking care of themselves, drinking alcohol, they escape life, taking medications, that hurts you, not helps you. And so, with that being said, we need to talk about why it's actually so critical to have that internal mindset shift, that rather than I can't, I can, in your healing journey. Because we can have the best testing, functional medicine testing, we can have the best protocols, but if the individual can't actually follow what we're saying, and they're not willing to make the changes needed to do so, then that individual, quite frankly, cannot save themselves. And we can't save them either. So I'm just kind of curious on like what you like to do with that in terms of the reframing of mindset you do for your clients. Maybe you also do it in the clinical setting too. But I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so powerful. I think almost the most important thing, like you
Yeah.
said, because you can take all the supplements in the world, they're not going to do a thing if you think I'm sick no matter what, and nothing's going to help me, then
Yes.
nothing's going to help you. I want to say our mind is so powerful. When I was an athlete, when I was a gymnast, they used to tell us wherever your head is, your body will go, right? And that was just as a thing about don't fall, right? Don't fall off the beam. Like wherever you're looking, that's where your body goes. But I think metaphorically speaking, that's also true. What's ever in your mind, the brain is really good at seeing patterns and supporting the belief that you have. So if you think that you are sick, or that everything bad happens to you, your brain is going to look for patterns that support that. And so you're going to be seeing all the opportunities specifically that are negative, that are holding you back, that are agreeing with those mindset beliefs that you have. And so it's imperative that we change them. It's very simple, right? We need to change them. It isn't always so easy, right? We have to work at it. It's a skill. I think mindset is a skill. You have to practice it every single day.
Yep.
That's why people do affirmations, right? They don't maybe believe them at first, but you just have to start saying them, and you have to start reframing. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer in 2017. And this is, difficult for me to say to people. A lot of people do not agree with me on this. And, I think they even feel like, but my mom thinks that was a blessing in disguise, because it was a slow growing thing, right? It wasn't like a sudden, stroke or heart attack that took her out. It was this diagnosis that was pretty bad, right? I mean, the prognosis was very poor. But it allowed her to say, whoa, what is in my environment, like you said earlier, that is allowing my body to have this cancer? I'm going to change it. And she changed everything. 3 months later, after that initial diagnosis, she was free from all of cancer. The next PET scan was 100% clear resolution of all tumors that were in bone, muscle, wrapped around, she couldn't even lift her arm. They were wrapped around the vessels, all gone in 3 months. I mean, that's extraordinary. But in her mind, that was the mindset was, I've been given another opportunity. Something happened.
Wow.
It made
Yeah.
me realize, and I'm reframing. And so the reframing is so important. So I teach my clients that all the time. Like, how can we reframe things? How can we look at it as, an opportunity? Our body is not trying to kill us. It's not trying to hurt us, right? Like autoimmune disease is like, our body's attacking itself, but it's trying to help us. It's giving us signs and warnings and messages,
Yes.
so that we can make changes. So it's so important to reframe. And so I think one thing that I teach my clients is at the end of the day, let's write down, gratitude journal is huge for me, like to be grateful for what we have and to even see things that are difficult with gratitude and then say why that is. So at night, I have people write down 3 things that were, that they found were positive from that day. It could be something very tiny, it could be a huge event, but 3 things that were positive so we can start training our brain to look for positive things because it's a skill, we got to train it. And so write those 3 things down every single night, three good things that happened, 3 things that I did that were positive, and why were they positive? And you'll start training your brain to look for positivity and to, and so I do that with the body, right? We're healing, we're in the process. Like, sure, yes, we've been given this diagnosis, but we're in the process of healing from it right now,
Yeah.
and it's a journey, but every day we're getting better, we're healing, and we're taking action. We're not just believing it without doing anything, we're backing it up with action. That's how we believe it, right? I know that I'm getting better because I'm eating the foods that support my gut and give me all the macronutrients to build muscle. I know I'm doing those things, and therefore I can believe that I'm healing today. And so that's huge for me. I mean, massive.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's so critical. I mean, I mean, there's been a lot of people that I've helped that, you know, they'll talk to doctors for years. They'll see every specialist, driving all around their state to see the specialist. And within months, I will reverse all their symptoms that they've ever had. And I think it's not because I don't think it's because I mean, obviously, yes, the physiological changes that happen within inside themselves, reducing inflammation, calming the immune system, getting rid of gut infections, healing the intestinal lining, whatever. That's all cool. But it happens because, for one, someone actually believed in themselves and believed in them that they can heal and that they can do it. And that's really profound because I think that's the biggest mover in healing. And a part of my journey is that I worked inside many functional type of clinics. It was more of like a naturopath, I would say. And so every day we'd see people that come in and had cancer diagnosis, colon, breast, ovarian, esophageal. And so those people, when working with us, by 90 days, so 3 months, they would have a dramatic decrease in all issues with whatever cancer. See, I'm not a cancer expert, but I'm less, getting rid of things right. And the biggest thing is the instillment. And the doctor at the time of the clinic, the owner of it, he was like a mentor of mine. And he really reiterated to us about the power of healing that the mind has. And so while you might think, you know, obviously there's a time and a place to do, let's say, chemo, for example. But if you really just believe in yourself, and maybe you believe in a higher power, whatever that may be for you, and you believe that you can heal and get better, it will happen. And that's so profound because it is so true. Because if you actually have someone that's there fighting for you, holding your hand through the process, and telling you that you can do it, it's like a 60% increase in results. 60% increase in results, if not more. Almost 100% increase in results. Because it's not just about your diagnosis, it's not just about your symptoms, and it's sure as hell not about the protocols that we give you. It's about the internal self belief that you have in yourself that you can do it. That it's not just your age, it's not just your life, it's not just your stress.
Yeah.
You can do it. And so I guess that kind of gives us to the next topic too, with I guess like some more mindset things that you honestly like to do with some of your clients too. I know you said affirmations, but actually, my apologies. I do want to get into a little bit too, though. Some of the testing you like to do though, with your coaching practice, and kind of even like if you do anything with that like clinically as well, as a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I definitely am doing CGM, the continuous glucose monitor, because that's my thing, is really to, regulate people's blood blood sugar levels. And, the testing that we do in conventional medicine is, like an annual test. Like it's just a
Yeah,
little,
it's not
snapshot.
snapshot.
And it
Yeah.
just doesn't give you any information. It's okay, why is my A1C high? I don't know, and I try really hard for a year and then I come back and it's the same. And it's like, okay, so you don't have any feedback. The CGM gives you feedback on a constant basis, and you see, what kind of stressors are going, because sometimes your blood sugar is going to spike after, a certain activity. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with food, right? You haven't eaten anything in 3 hours. So
Or
you learn a lot.
emotional response. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because once you say like cortisol and glucose have the same molecule type structure, so it's
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
forgot what I technically is like glucocorticoid. I don't remember off the top of my head,
Yeah, you're
but
right. And it does it, I have for sure, spikes that are purely just adrenal,
yeah,
cortisol. There's no food behind that, and and those sometimes go higher than a high carbohydrate meal, which is crazy to me. So yeah, so you learn a lot when you do CGM testing, and now it's over the counter. You don't have to have a doctor's order because most doctors are not going to order it for you unless you have type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. They're not
yeah.
going to order it for
There we go again.
pre-diabetes. They say you don't need it,
Reactive
and it's like,
medicine.
yeah, it's so frustrating. So, but now it's over the counter, and there's a lot of companies that you can work with. So, CGM I do for sure for everybody for at least 2 months. I like to do that, and then I also do metabolomics testing,
Mhm.
the Genova testing, to look at the micronutrients. To look at metabolic health in general, the inflammation that may be present. That helps me with supplementation to fine tune supplements.
Yeah,
Um, and then I do the GI map often as well. So I'm looking at
yep,
microbiome, looking at, parasites, any type of infection, looking at, just which, do we need more diverse foods, to bump up, your good, healthy microbiome
yep.
bacterias. And so that's a really important one for me too. So those are the typical functional tests that I use at this
Yeah,
time.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. I definitely like using I mean, I do actually use a lot of the glucose stuff with some of my clients. Like it's not usually I don't ever really recommend the continuous glucose monitor because I know sometimes that could be hectic for someone, but I normally like a normal reading. Yes, obviously it is a little bit intense because sometimes they might have to pull their blood, and I don't have them do it all the time. But if someone is in that, mostly it's someone that's dealing with severe metabolic resistance, I like to at least have them take a fasted blood sugar reading and then also a 2 hour postprandial to kind of see where the
Yeah.
glucose is. But I could totally understand the value that would bring though of continuous glucose monitoring as well.
Yeah.
And as far as the stool test, the GI map, obviously I run that. I mean, all the time. I mean, probably I think at every point in time, I probably have one test that's coming in. But anyway, I another big test that I've actually have been liking a lot recently is I call it the female fat loss panel. And while it is blood work, it isn't like a urine hormone test like a Dutch test, and it's not a stool test, and it's not a micronutrient test. It's a very in-depth blood test. And the reason why I like that is because when you go do your annual testing with your doctor, your endocrinologist, your gynecologist, if someone's, looking for that, or OBGYN, if you get pregnant or something, they're not looking at these specific lab values. They're not looking at your thyroid antibodies. They're not looking at your T3. They're not looking at your T4. They're not looking at your DHEA sulfate. They're not looking at these other. They're not looking at your. I mean, if they haven't got their blood test in whatever, how many? I mean, usually people sometimes haven't gotten like 3 years. They haven't even got an A1C reading yet. Then I mean, we got to know where that's at too.
Right.
Now, obviously, as a functional medicine practitioner, those lab values are just what's going on in that period of time. But more importantly, it's really just what's the body reacting to. So now, as we dig deeper, why is the body reacting to these things? Why is my T3 off? Why do I have thyroid antibodies? And I think it's very important because many people come to me with hypothyroidism, but in reality, it's actually Hashimoto's. Now, everything I'm doing is not a diagnosis, but this is critical because if you had elevated TSH and they just gave you levothyroxine or Synthroid, which is protocol standard, that still doesn't address the immune system overactivity that's happening to your thyroid gland. That still doesn't cause or help you with what is the root cause of your autoimmune attack that's happening to your thyroid. So, I mean, I don't want to, and the only reason why I say this is because many people don't value these blood tests anymore because they want to just look at these functional testing, which is, I mean, gold standard, incredible. But there is definitely a time and place to get advanced blood tests done.
Oh yeah.
getting C-reactive cardiac, getting your inflammation markers, getting your lipid panels done. This is preventing you from issues. Now, on the other side of things, I mean, obviously the GI map test, one of my favorite, especially for someone with autoimmune issues, any type of thyroid issues, obviously skin, IBS, obviously IBD too. But obviously the Dutch test. I don't know if do you do much of that too?
I haven't done the Dutch test. I've, I know of it, but I
Okay.
have not dove into
Yeah,
that yet.
for sure. I mean, we can have a off air. I can guys, but
Yeah.
no, I definitely love the Dutch test just because though, if for a female, I love it for PCOS and women that are dealing with obviously a ton of hormonal symptoms. Maybe it's just PMS, infertility, really infertility, severe PMS, endometriosis, fibroids, fibromyalgia, and perimenopause. Sometimes at perimenopause, and then if you're taking in menopause, it's honestly kind of a waste of money unless you're just getting a 24-hour saliva cortisol, if you already know that you're in menopause at that point, because then you're just testing hormones that just aren't there,
Got
unfortunately. Then a
it.
blood test would just be fine. But with that being said, though, the Dutch test I found out to be very helpful, especially for PCOS cases, because you want to get to the root cause of why there's cysts in the ovaries, why there could be infertility. And the reason why I like that too is because there's no blood draw. You can do it at home, just like the stool test. But another thing is that's going to give me that 24-hour reading of cortisol levels. And as a functional medicine practitioner, I'm sure you see a lot of clients that actually don't suffer from too much cortisol, but actually too low of cortisol. And so
Right.
when I'm looking at that 24-hour reading on the Dutch test, I'm actually seeing many people that are flatlined. And this makes sense for high achievers, overdoers, always saying yes, never saying no, always trying to lose weight,
Out.
always, yeah, just completely flatlined. Um, but I want to talk about it. How many people that suffer from bloating, constipation, and a ton of gut issues, how many people have several strains of opportunistic bacteria that are high? I mean, how many people do you normally see?
Oh, I mean, just about everybody.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
I'm almost at the point where I'm like, okay, we can either save you money on this test and we could just do what's probably shown there, or we can do that, but
Right.
I digress. But
Right.
that is really critical. So I guess what are some of the other type of clients you like to see? Are you seeing people with specific problems or just people that are, trying to optimize themselves and feel better, just in case, someone might be interested?
I typically have a lot of clients who have chronic disease. So a lot of
Mhm.
people with gut issues, whether that's IBS or even clients with IBD. So they've got colitis, a lot of GI issues, and then often there's other things going on with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, prediabetes. So there's a lot of chronic issues going on. So most of the women that I work with, they just don't feel well and they want to feel better. So, maybe just coming to me with more symptoms, not even really, I want to fix these diagnoses and get rid of them, but I just want to feel better. I want to have more energy. I don't want to have so much bloating. I want to be able to eat things and feel confident that I'm going to feel well after I eat food.
Yeah.
And also just really confused. I don't know what to do. Nothing works anymore, and I've tried so many different things. And it goes back to what you were saying, that yo-yo dieting and doing all these different types of workouts. People don't give things enough time and are consistent for long enough to see changes. So
There
they
you go.
stop and they do something else. And
Wholeheartedly.
um, yeah, and you've really got to stick with something. And so finding a practitioner who's really going to hold you accountable and walk that journey with you, it's so important. People tell me all the time, you did this, like you helped, and it's like, no, you did it because
Yeah.
you stayed consistent. You,
Well, that's
listen to what
the
I
value, but that's the whole. Sorry, I cut you off. My bad. But that's the whole value of what a coach is, though.
Yeah,
Like what a coach is. They're not just there to be your practitioner and someone who's there to just give you all the tools you need to heal. That's incredible, top tier, needed. But it is instilling the internal beliefs, habits, lifestyle that you need to have to
right,
heal. And so that's why people get exponential results with
right,
coaching. As someone who's helped many people, as someone who's, I mean, really good results sometimes, not biased though. But the thing is because they go to the functional medicine doctor and they see him one time and it's like, oh, see you in the next 3 months, see you whenever.
yeah,
No, that's not how true healing is. It's by coaching, having someone walk your hand through the process, implementing the strategies you have as a practitioner, and giving this individual. It's making sure that you actually help them in the
right.
trenches on the easy days, but more importantly on the hard days. when they
Right.
want to give up on
Yeah.
themselves, when they don't want to do it
Yeah.
anymore, when they're traveling, when they have tons of things to do with their kids, their significant other, whatever. That is the true value that a true coach will bring you. You know,
Right.
someone like incredibly like you know, to give you that mindset shift that you actually listen to not just the protocols, but actually have the habits, the lifestyle changes needed
Yeah.
to actually heal.
Yeah. Like, how
But
do we make it work in your life? Because everybody's different. Everyone's schedule is different. Everyone's belief system is different. You know, people tell me I don't have time to do things, right? I don't have time to meditate. And okay, so let's figure out, do you wash dishes? Do you have to wash the dishes? Do you have to brush your teeth? Okay, so let's habit stack then. Every time you brush your teeth, you're going to do that every single day for 2 minutes at least, right? So during that time, you're going to be present. You're going to feel the water, you know, the coldness, you know, and you start doing
yeah,
mindset work within your day, you know, and so helping people figure out how to fit it into their day. You know, do you have to drive, you know, every day? When you get in your car, you sit down before you turn the key on and you start the car, you're going to do 4 slow deep breaths, some box breathing. Okay, now how many times did you get in and out of your car today? That's how many times you did breath work. Amazing. Like, we fit it in and we made it, you know, seamless in your life. So that's, you know, what a coach helps you figure out, how to navigate these tools and how to get it into your, you know, day to day without overwhelming you and stressing you out even more, right? Because that's sometimes, you know, we're just adding on to people's schedules and
yeah.
burning them out.
No, it's
How do
so critical.
how do
Making
we
sure
fit
that
this?
actually fits your life.
Uh,
Yeah, that's, I mean, one of the most important things. I mean, yeah, there's many people I work with that are, you know, doing, you know, got tons of things. Obviously, someone who's working full time, add in children. I mean, that's obviously a whole nother thing.
yeah,
And then whatever else obligations you may have, you know, because sometimes it's not just normal working you might do. Maybe you're doing like uh, specific work words. It's not just like a straight set time. It's different times. You know, I work with a lot of like shift nurses, people like
yeah,
that. You know, like first responders, like stuff like that. But it's so important to make sure that it fits this individual's lifestyle too. But that's definitely a great point on. Now I want to hear about your top 3 success stories that you've had with your clients. I know I don't want to hear about the IBS one. You already mentioned that, so I want to hear about 3 more success stories that you've had with clients, or 3 big client wins you had this week.
well, I mean, I always go back to my number one, and this is my number one is my mom, right?
Yeah.
Because she's my inspiration. And I want to tell people, you know, my mom was in her 70s, she's in her 80s now. She's hiking mountains, she's up in the gym at 5 a.m. with
Wow.
me in the mornings. Yeah. If she can do this, anybody can do this, right? I mean,
Hmm.
this is just like we all have the capacity to heal at any age. It doesn't matter. So that's my number one. I mean, it's just my success story. She's like my first client. She,
Yeah.
you know, um, but yeah, a few more success stories. Um, I mean, there's so many.
Yeah. I just list them all in. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding, but yeah, just get like some like
So
you know.
I think one of the biggest things that I see from people, and somebody just mentioned this to me the other day, is again that the capacity, the ability to handle life. She said I didn't know that that was even possible, to be able to, you know, enjoy things, right? Like, everything is a stressor. Everything, like even playing with, you know, her child,
Yeah.
it was a to do and something that is draining. And when you balance your blood sugar out, you become so much more capable of handling life, because we have a busy, crazy life. Like, we just live in a world with so many options and so many decisions that we have to make. It's so stressful. You know, and all these things that were supposed to help us, you know, improve life, have actually made things more difficult. And so when you balance your blood sugar out, very quickly, a few weeks into that, you become more capable and resilient and calm and present. And so that's a huge thing. Um, I had another client who said that she hasn't been able to eat healthy foods like
Yeah. Yeah.
vegetables in, you know, forever. Like, just, you know, one of these people who said, you know, it's almost like I'm allergic to vegetables, I can't eat it. And, you know, once we did the work and we improved digestion, and she can tolerate foods now, it's like, it's just a life is so much more enjoyable, because I know that I can eat foods that are doing my body well. I know that I can go out and eat, and I'm not going to be doubled over in pain and have to leave, you know, the event early because I'm in so much, you know, pain. And so, you know, doing the work, you know, consistently, it doesn't happen overnight, but being consistent and making these changes that we coach people through over time, the transformation. So yeah, so a few wins, being able to play with my child and
Hmm.
enjoy that time, and another one being able to eat healthy foods and it not, causing me distress. So I can stay at the party, I can hang out with people and feel confident that what I'm going to feed myself is going to sit well. And so those are huge. I mean, these are life-changing things that, I mean, we all want to be able to enjoy our time with our children. We all want to be able to eat foods, especially foods that we know are healthy for us, and be able to be out with other people at a restaurant and feel confident that we're going to be well after. So huge
Hmm.
wins. And everything that these people are doing are lifestyle changes. There's no like treatment that was given, right? This is all
Yeah.
just shifts, and it's possible for every single person. And so
Yeah.
I just want people to feel empowered by that change is possible. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It could be step by step, and having a coach or a practitioner to guide you with that, it just makes it so much, you're going to see results faster
Hmm.
because you're going to have that guidance, and the accountability to keep you going every day.
Yeah, of course. That's incredible. Well, all right then, Nancy. So I guess like if people are interested in learning more about you and kind of maybe even working with you, what should they do? Should they message you on Instagram
Yeah,
or
yeah. Message me on Instagram. I think that's the easiest way. I have, a form to fill out to kind of give me some information about what, you might be struggling with. And then we book a free call so that because you have to feel like you mesh with the person. That is so important, right? I'm not going to mesh with every single person out there, but if I mesh with you, you're going to do so much
yeah,
better. So we do a free
yeah.
call and we chat and we talk about the health issues that you're struggling with, what you've tried in the past, what's not working, and then I give you some suggestions and direction, and then we go from there. And I have different programs, depending on what the person's going through, but we work
Hmm.
together for at least 3 months. I have 6 month plan. I have a 12-month plan. So it's really, it's whatever fits that person best. So yeah, reaching out on Instagram would be the best way to connect with me.
Perfect, perfect. Well, you guys hear it first. I mean, if you aren't getting results and you need help, you need someone who's walked the walk, obviously, and walks the talk, then Nancy is your woman. So I really appreciate you taking your time. I'm glad that we found each other. And I mean, I can definitely see us doing more of these as time goes on,
Awesome.
just speaking of more topics. But
Yeah.
all right, Nancy. Well, you have a blessed rest of your
Thank you.
day. We'll be in touch, all right?
Same to you.